Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to England once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that you've seen me review a good number of beers from before. These guys carry a very good reputation these days, and based on my experiences with them so far, I can say that that is pretty damn justified. The last beer that I had from them I was really impressed with actually. So for this review we are going to go back to Leeds in Yorkshire in the north of the country, and we're having a look at another beer from North Brewing Company. So this one is called the Leafcutter. It comes in at 6.8% ABV, and this one is a double dry hopped New England IPA. We got this beer here in Sweden as part of the Tillfälligt temporary assortment either on the 6th or the 13th of October 2020. I forget exactly which date it was, but released October 2020 nonetheless. So yeah, I'm very curious to see how this one turns out. This is a really quite highly rated beer. I think it had like around 4.1 on Untappd when I checked it out earlier. As I always say though, take Untappd with a pinch of salt. It's always a good barometer, but you know, beer is always very subjective. But the last beer that I had from these guys was the Transmission, and that was a beautiful IPA. I really enjoyed that one actually. That beer was given to me by my good friend Adam over at Mersey Beers. Make sure you check out his channel incidentally. But he was telling me that that one is available through Marks and Spencer's throughout England and Scotland and all of these places. So I have to say that that was probably one of the best, if not the best, supermarket IPA that I've had so far. So I was very impressed with that one. But like I said, these guys are very well respected these days, and probably it's fair to say that they're one of the best New England hazy producers that you're going to find in England at the moment. So I would highly recommend that you check these guys out if you are interested in English craft beer. The English craft beer scene of course is very strong, and I'd recommend that you check out my friends over in the English beer tubing scene. Brett at Beardy Beer Reviews, Craig at Kent Beer Reviews, Harry at Blue Nose Beer Reviews, Ollie from Pint Size, Jaco at Jaco Beer, Peter the Clueless Drinker, we've got Rob at Hop Scene, Stuart Pickard, Ginger Ale Ale Trail, Christoph at Ale Degustations, and then we have Paul over at Billman's Beer Reviews as well. There's some really good English beer tubers these days. It's probably Rob, I think, who is most likely to review the different things from these guys, because he is very local to them. He's based in Huddersfield if I remember rightly. But yeah, go and check out some of the English beer tubers and you will see these beers reviewed a little bit more regularly than I can do them for you. But as I say, very well respected English brewery these days, and there's a lot of good English beer. But let's focus on this one for the moment then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from North Brewing Company before, and you will no doubt see more from these guys in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the English beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite regularly these days because we are getting more and more English beers over here in Sweden. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about North Brewing then, on to my brewery notes. So North Brewing, as I've told you before, are based in Leeds in Yorkshire in the north of England, and the company was founded by John Gingell, if I'm pronouncing his name rightly, and Christian Townsley, who owned the North Beer Bar, which opened quite a little while ago in 1997. But today this kind of parent company operates 6 venues around the city of Leeds. But apparently North Bar used to work quite closely with the likes of James Clay and Vertical Drinks, who were you know, pub companies, distributors, these kind of things, and they used to help promote craft beer quite widely in Yorkshire. For those of you that don't know, Yorkshire is probably one of the more prominent regions when it comes to having a kind of more long-held craft beer culture, if you like, along with Cornwall. Rooster Brewing Company are the one that spring to mind. They've been going since the early 80s, if I'm remembering rightly. Stuart Pickard would be your man to talk to about that. But yeah, Yorkshire, very strong craft beer heritage. But this brewery itself is located in the Taverners Walk Industrial Estate. It's got a 200-person tap room, which looks very impressive in the photos. It's somewhere that I do need to go and visit with Rob Hopsine at some stage, but they've got a 15 BBL brew kit in there as well. But the brewery brewers at the brewery are Seb Brink, who used to work for Golden Owl, and Darius Darwell, who worked for the Bristol Beer Factory. And they've been producing lots of different things over the last little while, including stouts, some sour beers, and also a lot of IPAs. That seems to be their main focus. And as of October 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 160 different kinds of beer, and like I said, they are one of the most well respected English craft breweries these days. I know that Rob at Hopscene, he says that I'm sure he said that they were his brewery for 2019, so that kind of gives you an idea of how good these guys are. But very, very highly regarded, and in my experience, the reputation that they have is pretty damn justified, actually. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about North Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all those different beers. But let's get on and have a taste of this one then. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this before we open up. As you can see, it is quite similar to the other ones that we've had before. The artwork on the North Brewing Company beers is quite similar depending on the size of the can. The 440s all tend to be about kind of similar to this, just with different colour schemes, but that modern kind of graphical style artwork. But yeah, the 330s that are sold in the supermarkets have different artwork. Go and check out my transmission review if you want to see that. But as you can see right in the middle of the can, there is the North Beer symbol. You'll also find this on the beers normally, North Brewing Company, and it tells you a little bit here. So yeah, like I said to you, this one is a 6.8% double dry hopped New England Hazy IPA. Oats and wheat in this one, and the hops are Mosaic, Azacca and Citra. So Mosaic, we know, nice tangerine oranges, about 13-14% alpha acid. Citra is at the same alpha acidity. Usually it's kind of mangoes with a few different complexities, and Azacca is quite an interesting one. It's got a more kind of bright bright mandarin-y orange note. But it's also got a little bit of kind of pineapple and things in it from what I remember too. But yeah, 440ml can this one. I think I paid maybe 55 or 60 Swedish kroners for this. So this is about £5 for the can, which is probably better than you would pay for this in the UK actually. It's one of the great things about Systembolaget is that they don't make profit. But if you compare that to a Swedish IPA from say Stigbergets or something, you will pay an extra 10 kroners because it's an import, which is fair enough to be honest with you, transport costs and all of this. But yeah, 440ml this one, £5 for the can. It's no bad. Let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Really curious about this. So yeah, let's get it out and into the glass. And I have to say, I'm quite glad that Systembolaget, we seem to get in the Tillfällig assortments, we seem to get at least two different English beers every month these days. We've had Dea recently, we've got North now, and I think Gypsy Hill are going to be the next one that release quite soon. So I'm glad that we are getting a bit more variety and a bit more regularity to the English beer releases here in Sweden, because as I've told you many a times, the English beers are pretty damn good, I have to say. I wish we would get a few more Scottish things. I'm looking forward to seeing if we can get Overtone and some more Tempest and stuff like that over in Sweden. That would be great as well. Yeah, as you can see and as you would expect from a New England IPA, this one's poured a lovely, quite bright yellow colour. I would describe this one as being along the lines of a mango juice. We always compare the New England IPAs to different fruit juices on my channel because it's just my point of reference. Yeah, this one looks like a lovely bright kind of mango juice colour. You can see that this beer has poured with about a half finger of a frothy, I would say kind of white and cream coloured head. There's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, but not a lot to be honest with you. You can see a few bubbles going up towards the bottom of that head, but you know, overall it does look pretty damn nice. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see this beer does have a good degree of haze to it, but yeah. It's for a 6.8% of the level of haze in that is pretty nice, but I would say it's not the soupiest and gloopiest of IPAs you're going to come across at 6.8%, but yeah, pretty impressive level of haze from this one. So yeah, it looks like a lovely beer, exactly as you would kind of expect for a New England IPA. Nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance. So let's have a closer look at the aroma of this one then and see how we go. Very curious about this. Ooh, that does smell really nice. First impressions that I have of this beer is that it's quite an oaty leaning New England IPA, this one. I get a lot of nice oaty creaminess out of the malt base. You can smell a little bit of the wheat coming out of this one. There's a nice sort of smooth white breadiness to the beer. but at the same time a little bit of bitiness from the wheat. The oats, as I said, they come out really nicely. It's got a nice kind of smoothness to the oats, I would say, but it's really, it really just strikes me as very smooth and quite juicy New England, to be honest with you. Yeah. So the malt base, nice smooth white bready character, a good bit of creaminess from the oats in my mind. You get a little bit, pardon me, of that Werther's Original butter candy type thing out of the beer, but not too much. I'd say it's the oats, the kind of straight up oats that are coming out of this. Bit of, yeah, as I say, a little bit of a more bitey wheat right at the back of the nose. But yeah, to me, the malt base comes across as kind of old school. It reminds me a little bit of the likes of, you know, Narangi and Amazing Haze and stuff like this. Definitely a more bready kind of oaty leaning base. There is a little bit of that kind of Werther's Original butter candy type thing in this one, which I'm finding in quite a few beers these days, particularly the Scandinavian ones. The Hey Fem from Dry and Bitter, the Mistler was another one from Stigbergets recently that had that kind of thing in it. There's a lot of that going on in the Scandinavian New England IPAs these days, but this one just strikes me as being a little bit more old school. I'm not sure when this would have been released in England originally. It does tend to be the case that they brew a special batch of something that they've brewed previously to release over here in Scandinavia. So yeah, this beer might have been released like 6 months ago or something like that in England. I honestly don't know. I should go and check Rob's channel and see when he reviewed this one, because he would have reviewed this pretty new, I would think. But yeah, I like how this one goes together on the malty side of things. As you'll know on the channel, I'm a huge sucker for a good malt base, but this one comes across nicely. On the green side of the hops then, I would say that this beer, it's actually, again, it's quite well balanced in that sense. There's a wee bit of earthiness there, which will be the mosaic. You've got a good little bit of floral aromaticity, and there's a wee bit of lighter grassiness in there as well. So for me, yeah, for me, it's got a nice little bit of a... I'd say it does lean a little bit more towards the floral side of things, and the floral characters are quite bright. It's a little bit more grassy in my mind, but yeah, I do like how that grassy side of the beer kind of just complements everything else. The grassy side of it really suits the kind of fruity aspects of this one too. So let's focus on those fruity things now. So for me, yeah, when you sugar the beer up a little bit, you do get a nice little bit of juicy mango out of it. That's the Citra, obviously, that's going to give you that. Underneath, though, you do get a wee bit more of a kind of oily, tangerine-y, orangey sort of thing. The Mosaic and the Azaka are both going to give you different kinds of oranges there, and I think they combine to give you a slightly more almost Amarillo-like orange. As I've told you before, the Amarillo hop really gives you a very oily, straight-up orange for me. The Mosaic is a bit brighter and more tangerine-y, whereas the Azaka, in my mind, is even brighter than that, and it gives you a more kind of mandarin-y note. But I find the two of them are combining a little bit and almost giving you a wee bit more Amarillo, like oily orange. There's a wee bit of pineapple coming out of this one for sure as well, and I think that's more likely to be the Azaka that's giving you that. Citra, I think, is capable of doing it, but I think it is more likely the Azaka that's going to give you that. There is a wee touch of like an almost gooseberry-like note to this one as well, but that's quite minimal, to be honest. But yeah, you can kind of feel that mixing in. I do get a good little bit of a gooseberry, slightly limey kind of note on this one on the very front edge of the nose as well. So the nose for this one, I have to say, is quite interesting. Juicy mangoes, which is kind of what you'd expect from the Citra. A slightly more oily orange. You would expect kind of tangerine oranges from both Mosaic and Azaka in this one. A little bit of a gooseberry lime, and yeah, I do like how that goes together. But yeah, the aroma of this one is really quite nice. Strikes me as more oaty, a bit more old school, like Narangi, Amazing Haze type thing. But yeah, nice kind of smelling beer, this one. So take a bit of time and just enjoy that aroma before you get stuck into it. But we're going to taste this one now. So this is the Leafcutter, a double dry hops New England IPA. It's 6.8% ABV from North Brewing Company, based in Leeds in Yorkshire in England. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål. That's really nice. I noticed when you take it in, it does have a wee bit of bite to it, which is good. Yeah, that's another really solid New England from Another very, very solid New England from North Brewing, I have to say. It's a little bit more yeasty, I think, than I was picking up in the Aroma, but yeah, it's a lot more kind of bready, I think, than the Aroma was letting on, to be honest. But it is another very, very solid beer from these guys. I have to say, I think on first impressions, I actually maybe prefer the transmission, to be honest with you. There's nothing wrong with this, but I think just personally, I think the transmission might be a little bit more to my tastes. But this is a good beer again. And I would say the more you drink of this, it definitely develops a little bit more of a kind of bite to it, which I like as well, but it really rounds off very nicely and becomes very, very smooth. So yeah, where to start with this beer then? So straight away across the middle of the palate and the back third of your palate, you've got a nice kind of smooth white bready character coming out of this one. That forms the backbone of the beer. As you go towards the back third of your palate, you definitely get a bit more of a kind of wheaty bitiness coming out of this one. You can definitely pick out those big wheaty bitey characters on that back third of the palate there. You can feel the breadiness just thickens up a little bit there, and then at the very back you've got more of the kind of darker bitey wheaty notes coming out of it. But yeah, I like how that kind of goes together. This beer, as I said, from the aroma you can really pick up that this is a bit more. It doesn't have the sweetness and the kind of almost brown sugary notes that you're getting from some of the New Englands these days. This one's definitely a little bit more straight up bready, oaty, wheaty sort of thing. But yeah, as you move further forward into that middle third of your palate, you can feel the thickness of the beer just drops away a little bit. You can get that kind of slightly more crisp but still quite smooth white bready base there, and then just on top of that, in the very centre of your palate, you will get a wee tiny touch. You get a little tiny touch of that sort of Werther's original flavour, but as you move further out towards the edge of the palate, you start to get more of the kind of grainy biscuity note there, and as you reach the front half of that middle third of your tongue, there's definitely more of that kind of oaty note there. So in the middle third of your palate, for me, it's the more kind of crisp white bread, but at the same time quite smooth. You get a bit of the oatiness there kind of underneath it, and then you get just a wee touch of the brown sugar and kind of cat and slightly biscuity note coming out of it too. But yeah, the notes that the malty base on this one, I think you can feel the further you go into the aftertaste with this one, you do get a little bit of you get a little bit more graininess definitely coming out of this beer the further you go into the aftertaste, and I do think some of the yeasty notes you can pick up a little bit of that sort of woody. That kind of woody sort of farmhousey type thing coming out of the beer, particularly from the back third of the palate. You can feel a few of the yeasty notes just pushing their way out of this beer the further that you go into the aftertaste. But I think definitely in terms of its malty side, this beer is a little bit more kind of old school, straight up oaty, wheaty if you like, compared to some of the other New England IPAs. That again, I really think the New England IPA is evolving a little bit more these days to be kind of a bit more sweet and oily. That makes sense. So this beer probably in a sense is comparable to, you know, Amazing Haze, the GBG Beer Week 20, the new and improved GBG Beer Week from Stig Bergets, the you know, the Narangi and things like that, and from OO Brewing. This is probably the sort of thing this is comparable to actually. It's a solid beer, this one, and in some ways it actually has a little bit of a kind of Gamma Brewing type vibe to it as well from some of the yeasty notes, but it's more like Narangi, Amazing Haze, this one, I would say. Yeah. So, yeah, this one's it's a really interesting beer, this, from that sense. I like beers that make you think a little bit, and I always like comparing beers to other ones that I've had previously. I think that's a good measure of how good the beer is, because your palate's constantly evolving. We've said that a lot on the channel, but let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer then. So yeah, back corners of the palate, you get a nice little bit of earthiness out of this one. That's the mosaic that's giving you that. But as you move further forward, the earthiness spreads forward a little bit. You get a nice good little bit of floral aromaticity out of this one. And as you go round the very front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and grassy. I would say the earthiness and the floral notes are a bit more prominent than the grassiness for me. and they kind of linger into the aftertaste a little bit. But yeah, on the front third of your palate, that's where you get that nice juicy bubble where the fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. So let's focus on that side of the beer now. I think on the green side of the hops, I'd say it's the earthiness, I think, really pushes its way out the further you go into the aftertaste of this one, and I think the yeasty notes are kind of promoting that a little bit. So yeah, on the front third of your palate then, you go towards the back of it, there's a wee touch of passion fruit for me, that slightly darker thing, that'll be coming from the Citra. The Citra is going to give you a little bit of that darker, more pungent tropical fruit there on the back of the palate. As you move further forward, it's definitely a wee bit more, kind of, yeah, there's definitely more of the mangoes coming out of this one, and it's got quite a soft tropical fruit. There is a wee bit of like a kind of mix of apricot and pineapple note out of this one in front of that too. So yeah, let's just move forward. So more passion fruity, a little bit more mango, like a wee bit of pineapple and apricot underneath. Then you've got a wee bit of a kind of tangerine-y, oily, orangey kind of thing, and that's the Azacca and the Mosaic that's giving you that. Yeah, that's the orangey note really comes out. It's a little bit more. It's quite different to the Aroma, because like I say, in the Aroma you were getting more of an oily Amarillo type orange out of this, but it does come across as a bit lighter than that, if that makes sense in the flavour. It is a bit oily, but at the same time it's a lighter and quite and considerably brighter flavour than you would expect from the Aroma, to be honest with you. But yeah, I do like how that side of the beer, that side of the beer goes together in this one. So yeah, I think you can feel a little bit of the pineapple note just kind of sitting on top of that. I do think there's a slight undertone of gooseberry to this one, and as you reach the front edge of the palate, it's almost just got a wee touch of lime out of it as well. And I have found, for me, like Citra is capable of giving you a little bit of a lime character, lemon limey note, depending on what you mix it with. But I found that sometimes Mosaic can give you a wee bit of that as well in certain instances, which is quite weird, because Mosaic really should only give you tangerine orange and things like that, from what I remember. But yeah, it's an interesting one. So I do find that on the front edge of the tongue there is just a wee bit of a slightly limey edge to this one. I'm going in with those grassy esters that you get out of the beer. So yeah, this one for me, it's an interesting one. This, as I say, I actually think I prefer the transmission. I think the transmission just suits my taste a little bit more, but I'm sure the transmission isn't rated as highly as this one is. But as we always say, beer is subjective, but I do think I prefer the transmission to this one, the Leafcutter. And the name of this beer, incidentally, comes from the type of ant, from what I understand. But yeah, it's another solid beer from North Brewing Company. I can't really fault this beer in any way. As I say, there are just other ones that are a bit more suited to my kind of taste, if you like. But if you like a nice kind of soft, tropically kind of thing, this is the Citra and the Mosaic mix in this is quite obvious, and I think the Azacca is just adding a little bit more kind of softness to it. I think the Azacca is making the orange a little bit, the kind of tangerine orange is a bit softer, and it's also adding that a little bit of that pineapple note to the beer as well. You do get more of the pineapple, I think, as you go further into the aftertaste. But it's a solid IPA, this one. You can't knock it at all, to be honest with you, and for 60 kroners I think it's a good one. And for over here in Sweden, the novelty is trying one of these beers from one of the kind of hyped English breweries, if you like. So yeah, it's a good purchase, this one. It is definitely a good purchase, and I've enjoyed drinking this one. So yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel of this one, then I would describe this beer as pretty mid-bodied. The carbonation is it's pretty smooth in this one. The mouthfeel, I'd say overall, again, it's quite a smooth mouthfeel, this one. There's a wee touch of oiliness to it, but I'd say more smooth because of the yeasty notes. I think the yeastiness in this beer really builds as you go further into the aftertaste. It's quite bready and smooth at the same time, so the maltiness is quite smooth, the yeastiness is quite smooth, and that's really what lingers in this one. On the hoppy side, I would say it's about 30 IBUs. I think it's kind of standard. It's probably maybe even a bit less than that, maybe 25, something like that. So about 25 IBUs. The malt base is quite smooth, there's a little bit of graininess to it, and it's also got a little bit of, there's a wee tiny touch of sweetness to it, but not a lot. This is more a bready kind of smooth, and it does get a wee touch more grainy the further you go into the aftertaste, but I like the nice light juiciness that you get out of this beer as well. But overall it's really nicely done. This is another solid beer from North Brewing Company. And yeah, if you like a nice kind of soft tropical, if you like that Citra Mosaic blend, this one is going to suit your tastes, and it has a little bit of that lighter pineapple-y note coming out of it later. I do find the pineapple becomes a bit more prominent the further that you go into the aftertaste with this one. But yeah, another very solid beer from North Brewing Company, and yeah, it does make me curious to try some of their other ones. I wish we got them a bit more, how do you say, I wish we got their new stuff over here kind of as quickly as they were getting it in the UK and stuff, but obviously that's not going to happen. But yeah, solid brewery, another solid beer from them, but I would recommend that you check out the Transmission. I was very impressed with that one. So yeah, check out my review for that if you like, and check out my friend Adam over at Mercy Beers who sent me that beer. But yeah, if you want to see more from North Brewing Company, check out Rob at Hopzine. He reviews the new things from these guys quite regularly, but definitely cool to see these guys over here in Sweden once again, and I hope that you guys enjoyed my take on this beer, so we'll leave it at that. This one was the Leafcutter, 6.8%, double dry hopped New England IPA from North Brewing Company in Leeds in Yorkshire, England. Pretty damn solid, this one, but I think there are other beers from this brewery that I would put slightly higher than this, namely the Transmission. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Check out my social media, check out the brewery, let me know your own thoughts on the beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from North Brewing Company. Do keep your beer and brewery recommendations coming, of course, and I will catch you guys with the next one. The Leafcutter IPA, 6.8% ABV from North Brewing Company in Leeds, Yorkshire, England. Slàinte, skål, cheers.